Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Alrighty, let's check and see how you did on the closure problems for chapter 1. Problem 62 and 63 both have to do with this coordinate grid. And for problem number 62, we have a series of points. You got point A, point B, C, D, E, and F, and you were to identify the coordinates of each one of those points. So just take a look at what you see in red here. Remember, everything to the right of the origin on the x-axis, the x values are going to be positive. Everything to the left of the origin on the x-axis, all the x values will be negatives. Everything above the origin on the y-axis will have positive values for y. So you've got B, all three of those have positive values for y. And below the origin on the y-axis, all the y values would be negatives. And that's supposed to be a -5 there. It's kind of sloppy. And then for problem 63 is identifying where these points live on the coordinate grid. And so what we always do is these are xy coordinates. Let me do this. So that's your x value, that's your y value. And so go to the origin, and then +3 on the x line, 1, 2, 3, and then +2 on the y line goes up 1, up 2. This would be the point where G would be located. And if we wanted to label those, we could have, but I was starting to run out of room, okay? So I'm not going to go through and do all those for you. You can see where they are. Pause the video, make sure you got yours all in the correct spot. And if you are not doing this graphing on coordinate grid paper, you're making your job a lot harder. I really recommend you get coordinate grid paper. If you have no way of getting coordinate grid paper, please send me an email. I will set some aside, put it up in the office, and we'll figure out a way to get some to you. But graphing is way easier if you use graphing paper. Now for a 5D process kind of a problem. Ooh, I guess I didn't leave myself much room there for showing work. Let me do this. All right, so Ralph and Alphonse are shooting marbles. Ralph has 5 more marbles than Alphonse. Okay, so I'm going to do an R for Ralph and an A for Alphonse. And it looks like Ralph has 5 more than Alphonse. So if Alphonse has X, Ralph has X plus 5. And their total is 73. So if I take X plus 5, which is Ralph's marbles, plus X, which is Alphonse's marbles, you get 2X plus 5 equals 73. So if 2X plus 5 equals 73, that means that the 2X's before we added on the 5 must have been 68, right? Since take away 5 from 73, you get 68, which means that each one of these X's, Alphonse must have 68 divided by 2. He has 34 marbles, and Ralph has 5 more, so he has 39. And if these two numbers add up to 73, this is the check. Make sure you do this. 13, carry the 1, yes. Then we can declare our answer. Ralph had 39 marbles, Alphonse had 34. Let me clear all that. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Let's just get a few of these things out of the way. Okay, that's good enough. Nope, sorry, I'm OCD is kicking in here. Okay, on graph paper, draw at least 6 different sized rectangles that have an area of 64 units. Okay, so remember, the area is going to be equal to the base times the height. So what 2 numbers can you multiply to give together to give you 64? Those would be the dimensions of your rectangles. Now, I'm totally cool with the fact maybe you did 5 or 4 of them. I think I only did 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 just seems a little ridiculous. What you could have done is you could have tipped these on end. So have a 2 by 32 and then flip it up and have it 32 this way and 2 this way. That would have been legal. So yeah, 1/2 times 128 is 64. 1 times 64 is 64. 2 times 32, 4 times 16, and 8 times 8. These are all different possibilities. And someone looks at this one and says, well, that's a square. The direction said rectangle, so I didn't do that. Well, a square is a rectangle because it's a parallelogram with 4 right angles, and the opposite sides are equal to each other. So technically, it is a rectangle. It's just happens to also be a square. All right, diamond problems. Remember, when you multiply these two numbers together, you get the number on the top. When you add those two numbers, you get the number on the bottom. So here, negative 2 times 6 is negative 12, and negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. Remember, when you're adding integers together, and they're the different signs, you would subtract the numbers, and you would keep the sign of the bigger number. If you wanted to see that problem, negative 2 plus 6 using integers, or integer tiles, the pluses and minuses, right? These form the zero pairs, which leaves you with 4 positives. That was one of the big ideas of 7th grade. And then here we have to use some algebraic reasoning. So if, I'm not going to go through and explain every one of them. If you have a question, jump onto onto a meeting with me, or send me an email, or do something along those lines, and I can work these out for you. Here, I'm going to tell you this is not going to be on the chapter test. It's on the study guide. It's on the homework. It's a good preview for what we're going to be doing, I believe, in chapter 3. But I'm not going to test you on this. You've got a long way to go. So draw figure 1 and figure 5. Well, first off, it looks like each one of these is increasing by 3. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This has 8. This has 8, 9, 10, 11. This has 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, they're increasing by 3. So where do they increase by 3? It looks like you add these two guys and then that to the previous one. So you add 2 more here, and then 1 on the end, the previous one. So this one, if we add 2 more here and 1 more there, would be the 5th one. And then here we're taking those away to get to the first figure. And if I wanted to continue with the process, get rid of that guy and this, that would give me figure 0. They did not ask for figure 0, but in the future, we're going to see that the figure 0 is a very important figure. But I won't spoil it for you now. Okay. So with that being the case, the 6th figure, if this one had 17, then the next one would have to have 20, wouldn't it? And then the 10th figure, if we just kept the table going, we could eventually figure out that the 10th figure would have 32. I'm going to tell you right now that the rule for this is y equals 3x, because it's growing by 3 every single time, plus 2, that's the figure 0 number. And so let's check the 10th one. 3 times 10 plus 2 is 32. Let's check the second one. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. That is the correct rule. Once again, you are not expected to know how to do the rule. You'll learn that in the future, in the next couple months. All right, you are going to be interpreting graphs on your chapter test. So this says Zeke lives 30 miles from his Aunt Zelda and is riding his bike home from her house. Interpret the graph to tell a story about what could have happened on his ride home. Okay, so this must be Zelda's house right there, because he's going back home and he lives 30 miles away from Zelda. So this must be his home, okay? So he's traveling at a constant rate of speed for 1, 2, 3 hours, and something happens. He is here for 2 hours. And then he goes on his way again and travels the remaining distance over the next 3 hours. So here he travels a total of 20 miles in 3 hours. And here he travels a total of 10 miles in 3 hours. So he's traveling faster here than he did there. You could incorporate that into your story if you wanted to. What was my story? Zeke rides his bike at a constant rate of speed for 3 hours, traveling 20 miles. And that would be like 6.7 miles per hour. Then he stops at a friend's house for a couple of hours. After that, he rides the rest of the way home. So lots of different possible stories that you could write. You know, maybe he gets hit by a car here and he's unconscious for 2 hours in a ditch, and his bike is damaged, so he has to ride it slower to get home. I don't know. You'd be creative with your stories. That's a horrible one. I can't believe you would think of something like that. And that's it for our homework. 67, 66, 60. All right, so we are done, and that was less than 10 minutes. Good job. All right, so the next task is to take a look at the study guide, and I'll breeze through that relatively quickly too. All right, bye-bye.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed,